This is Garden Fork Radio, the audio companion to the GardenFork.tv video show. Garden Fork TV is a DIY show that you can watch on YouTube, on our site, and on iTunes. Garden Fork Radio here is me and a couple of my friends and some interviews with guests talking about what I call unscripted DIY. Covers the basics like cooking, gardening, home repair, car repair, computer geek stuff, but sometimes we step out and talk about some more esoteric subjects. Anyway, I think it's interesting, and I'd like you to come along for the ride. So here we go. Just before we start the show here, a little shout out and thank you to some people that have left iTunes reviews on the Garden Fork Radio iTunes page. This is really important for us. It helps with the search ranking. The podcast world is getting very full of people with podcasts, and we've been doing this for quite a while now. And just a little shout out to a bunch of people. Clean Slate Farm. I listen to Eric all the time while in the workshop or on the road. He's got some great tips and is really authentic and entertaining. The labs are also fun on his YouTube channels. Michelle totally gets it. DIY, cooking, gardening, beekeeping, and entertaining. 5 stars. By the way, you give us 5 stars, it really helps too. KGB Farm, Jason Greenthumb, OK8, JM Buffy, all super nice. And the Bosworth Group, Eric and the Camera Operator, by far my favorite do-it-yourself podcast I watch. Everything from cooking, baking, gardening, as well as home repair, mechanical maintenance. I have a great appreciation for Eric's use what you got approach. His ability to continually have a quest for knowledge is exceedingly inspirational. Not to forget his down-to-earth sense of humor. We can all learn from his talents. I'm flattered. I can all learn from you as well. So radio@gardenfork.tv is the email address. So if you go to our iTunes Garden Fork Radio page and say something nice to us and give us 5 stars, that would be cool. All right, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome to Garden Fork Radio. Are you here with Rick and Eric?
Good morning, Eric. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day here. You, sir?
Oh, it's wonderful. Finally, it's been a scorcher for the last several days, but it was cool this morning. Got the dogs on a nice walk early, and got in a couple laps myself, so I'm feeling pretty good.
So you've been doing more of your walking then, because it's a better weather?
Yeah. I'm up by usually 4:30 or so, and first light, the dogs and I hit the trail, and these old dogs, Sydney's 15 now, and she can't really take the heat, and so if we don't go early, she's not going to be able to make it.
Cool. So today, everyone, we have a couple of things to talk about. We're going to be talking about the new microphone everyone helped buy and how to roast corn. I have very strong feelings about that. Some Garden Fork YouTube updates, and also Paper Wasps, which I found a very interesting little post about that, and a couple of things Rick has.
Okay.
Does the microphone sound cool?
I think the microphone sounds wonderful.
A big thank you to Oregon Rick, and Jimmy Goots, who is our, I'd say, mid-coast reporter.
Right.
And a number of other people whose emails I can't find right now. But we got some nice feedback on the new microphone that you all helped buy. If you use our Amazon shopping link, we get a little bit of money every month from that, and we saved up a little bit and bought a ATR 2100 microphone for me. Everyone said that was the best of the 3 microphones we tested. And I just sent Rick the same microphone and a pop screen, which is what Oregon, you like saying Oregon, Rick suggested.
Right.
And so we will both have beautiful audio in your ears, everyone.
Well, except for my audio, it doesn't sound so beautiful anyway, I don't think. Do you like the way you sound on radio?
I don't pay attention to it anymore. It used to bother me. I mean, I have kind of a nasal tone because I've always had like chronic sinusitis kind of things, but I just kind of moved past it because I sound better than some other people. So,
She Who Must Be Obeyed and I have worked really hard over the years. We both we were high school sweethearts and grew up in the same town. In West Texas, and we had that weird West Texan accent. And we've worked hard to mute it through our years in the military because they used to tease us unmercifully. about it, but it still comes through.
Well, I think your voice is fine. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the show, Rick.
Oh, well, thank you.
How's that for executive producer power? But everyone, thank you. Thanks for your input. And you know what? The microphone, you see these pictures of people with their microphone setups in their studio, and these microphones are $300 or $400. This thing looks like a cheap karaoke microphone. But it works really well. It's less than $100. And I will there'll be an Amazon link in the show notes here if you want to buy one for yourself. If you have any podcasting questions, we're happy to answer those. We could do a show on that, actually. If somebody wanted to be a guest, we could answer their questions.
Sure. Yeah, everybody's doing podcasts now, and it's a good way to get the word out.
That actually, we have some competition with that.
Tell me about it. Yeah. I see more and more new podcasts. Of course, I am a podcast fanatic. I listen all the time when I'm not sitting here trying to create something. And when I'm out walking or when I'm gardening or doing the dogs or bathing them or something, and I'm listening all the time, but I can't keep up anymore.
I've been listening to it when I'm folding the laundry.
Right.
I've just listened to a new one, by the way. It's called Makercast. If you are interested in kind of the maker movement, in other words, handmade things, but also kind of technology oriented, like using CNC machines and 3D printers, but also like welding, very analog skills as well. It's called Makercast. And I listened to a couple of them, and they have a guest on every week about someone that makes stuff, and it's kind of interesting. So you want to check that out.
Wow. We have a makerspace over in Norfolk, and a neighbor boy, military family, needed something. They were asking. He's one of these kids. He's really bright in math, and he's not very good in school, and he was bored, and they were worried about what to do with him this summer. And I took the family over to the Makerspace, and his eyes just lit up because they're teaching welding and mechanical engineering and robotics and a little programming and desoldering and soldering and all that stuff. And he's about maybe 14 or so, and it's going to make his summer. He'll be there with a group of people who are just really mechanical, and he's going to learn all these wonderful skills. They even have a CNC table there, which is pretty unusual.
The thing here is that people are all wired differently, and if that works for them, that's great, and not everyone has the best social skills, but they might be, a brain surgeon or a genius. So good for them, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they found something they'll, help the guy click. I wished there was something like that when I was growing up. I used to take things apart. I was big on U-control airplanes.
Yep.
But this is before radio control. And you just fly around and around and around in the circle. But, that was a lot of fun. But, this is things people, I want to be a kid now because the toys are so cool.
Yeah, we were born a generation too early, so. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and I bet the answer is no.
Okay.
Did you watch my roasted corn video?
I did watch your roasted corn video.
Oh, good. You can stay on the show.
I watch all your videos eventually.
A lot of interesting talk about it, actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to watch it. You watch them as they come out.
All right, well. This is one where I grew up in the Midwest, mainly Wisconsin, and when we would roast corn on the grill, usually for a party, you would roast the corn for 24 hours in a cooler, and then they would roast it on the grill, unshucked. In other words, still with the leaves or whatever those are called, covering the corn.
Let's go back for a second. How do you roast it in the cooler?
Well, you soak it in the cooler.
Soak it in the cooler, okay.
Overnight in water. And then you just take them out and you put them on the grill and then you roast them.
Now, is that a brine or something, or is it just straight water?
Actually, it's just straight water, but one of our viewers suggested that if that was a brine, it might help for poor tasting corn. Or just enhance the sweet corn that does taste pretty sweet.
Right.
So it's interesting that because it was a fairly biased study test video because I don't soak my corn anymore anyway, but I wanted to see, does it really help? And what it does help is it helps from your corn catching fire if you want to lay it right on the coals.
I saw that, yeah.
Oops. But I think unsoaked is better. And
Well, you get that caramelization on it. That's good.
yeah, you kind of toast the kernels, which is nice. But a number of people wrote in and said, you know, what we do is we take the corn unhusked and they microwave it. And then they cut off the bottom half inch of it. Mm-hmm. And the corn slides right out and the silk stays in with the husk. So the silk must detach during the microwaving or the heating of it, I guess. And they just cut off the bottom and they pull it out and it pops right out. And they're cooked corn. And then you could also roast it then if you wanted to toast it up a little bit. But I thought that
Sure.
I'd never heard about that before.
Well, corn really is pretty much ready to eat raw.
Yeah.
It could be eaten raw. So all you're doing is warming it up and adding a little bit of flavor and doing that Maillard effect on it by caramelization. But give me a little salt and a stick of butter. I like the way you put the butter on, brother. That's the way to do it.
It's basically a butter delivery device.
It is. And it always has been in my family.
So if you want to check that out, it's on YouTube and also on our site, and it should be on iTunes too. A big shout out to the iTunes podcast team. They helped me resurrect the Garden Fork video iTunes podcast feed. It was completely messed up. And then it ended up that I emailed them like 3 times and didn't hear back. And I found out that my mail server was marking their replies as spam.
Oh, no.
Thank you. Thank you, mail server. Does someone know about IMAP email servers? One of my accounts is on a on a server, a shared server I use, and it's created a spam folder on my phone and diverts all my Facebook emails to the spam folder. And I keep on moving them out of the spam folder, and then it keeps on putting them back in. And then I even went to is it called a whitelist on my email server and said, don't spam the facebook.com emails, and it keeps on doing it. So maybe Chicago Mike, maybe GFR Mike might know something.
Maybe so.
Or anyone else, radio@gardenfork.tv. Would love some help with that.
I have not had that problem. I've had lots of problems in the past, but not that one.
Huh. We continue to undo the dumb thing I did in trying to split the Garden Fork YouTube channel into a DIY show and a cooking show. So I'm still moving DIY videos back to the original channel. It's going well, but I keep on getting people going, hey, didn't I just see this video? And a lot of them, yeah, you did. But I have to move them back, and I need some eyeballs when it first posts. So that's why I've been putting them so they pop up on what's called your feed or your timeline of your YouTube, or you're getting an email from YouTube.
So don't fool with it anymore once we get it set, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it anymore. But please watch all those videos, because when a video is launched on YouTube, if it doesn't get X number of views right away, it doesn't score well in their search algorithm. So it gets kind of sent to the bottom of the pile. The bad thing. I've been yakking here with all the things on my list. What about on your list, Rick?
Well, I was just thinking, things in the garden are going great guns. I've replaced some of the tomato plants that weren't working so good. And the thing that's distressing me right now, and I don't know if you're having it, but it just seems to be everywhere around here. People are commenting on it, is the complete lack of pollinators. And this is Pollinator Awareness Week. And I just thought I'd remind people to be kind of friendly to the pollinators and help them out a little bit. And speaking of pollinators, you wanted to talk about paper wasp.
Yeah, there's an article on A Root Simple, which is they have a podcast as well. And they're talking about paper wasps, which are the ones that make kind of an open wasp nest, usually under a window or some sort of overhang. And it's not enclosed in that kind of paper mache kind of material, or it's not in a hive or an enclosure. It's like an open face wasp nest.
Right.
And they are actually beneficial.
Oh, yeah.
I'll read from here. Paper wasps, also called umbrella wasps, are those guys who build smallish, open-celled nests in protected places, often the eaves of your house. Wasp stings are quite painful, but few people know these wasps rarely attack unless provoked, much like honeybees. More, they are beneficial in the garden because they prey on insects which damage plants. So when they build nests under our eaves, we leave them alone and never have any problems. So there you go.
That's exactly what I do. I tell people all the time, for some reason, people will call me out on a swarm call and then point to their paper wasp and say, "There's my swarm." And I'm like, "No, that's a wasp." And they say, "Well, should we spray them?" And I said, "No, leave them alone. They're powerful predators in the garden, and they're down there eating all those worms." Wasps are a carnivore of that family, and so they're down there eating all the worms off of your tomato, or off your, not tomato plants. They don't eat those big worms, but off the cabbages and whatnot. And then the bees are really the herbivores of that world, and they just graze around on pollen. And so you kind of need both of them. But as they visit around, they both pollinate.
Cool. So that was that was written by Kelly, actually, on Root Simple. And a little shout out to Eric of Root Simple, who is recovering from a kidney stone operation.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a big deal. All right, what's next, sir?
Oh, gee. My tomato tower, or potato tower, is going great guns. I'm going to put some pictures up soon, and I'll send them to you. This is the one where I had the bale of hay and some wire, wire fencing, made a round circle, had a layer of hay, some manure. Then I put the potatoes around the edges, more hay, manure compost, potatoes around the edges, and did layer after layer. I have 5 different potatoes in there now, and then topped it with a couple of sweet potatoes. And the potatoes are growing out the side of the wire fencing through the hay, and they're reaching for the sun, and they're flowering and everything right now. And it looks like this is really going to take off. And it's beautiful to see. And I'm hoping I'll have lots and lots and lots of different potatoes. I had 5 different kinds of potatoes in there. So that's working for me really well.
Cool. Now, let me ask you, different potatoes mature at different times. So how have you accounted for that, or?
I really didn't account for that. I'm just going to play it by ear this year. In late summer, all of the potato plants, the vegetation, the greenery will die back. And when that happens, I'll snip the cable ties that are holding this fencing together into a kind of a barrel shape. And it'll spring open, and I'll harvest what I can get, and I'll make a note then. This is all experimental. I'll make a note then which ones worked and which ones didn't work.
All right, cool.
So I'm hoping. How are the dogs?
They're wet, and they get a little smelly. So I actually did a dog shampoo video the other day.
Are you? Do you take dogs to a dog park?
Yes.
I was just reading an article from the Veterinary Association saying maybe it's not so good to be taking dogs to dog parks right now because of the canine flu that seems to be spreading everywhere, particularly through the Midwest, Chicago, and some of that area.
Wow, I heard a little bit about that, but I didn't really know much about it.
Yeah, it's spreading pretty fast, and it can be pretty fatal. And then also there's been a reemergence of distemper. Don't take a puppy to a dog park until they've had their full round of shots.
Yeah.
Because distemper is such a nasty disease. But my 2 are doing great. Sydney, I mentioned she's 15 years old. And one of the benefits of obedience training a dog, formally obedience training a dog, is paying off right now. We trained Sydney early when we got her. And now that she's gone deaf, we can talk to her. We can signal, and she will do pretty much, what we want her to do. Go here, go there, stop, stay, sit, that kind of thing, with just hand signals, because she does not respond to voice commands anymore. She's just too hard of hearing for that.
Wow, that's great. I have to think about my voice commands. Well, they could probably tell by body language too.
Oh, sure. They're constantly watching us, and Sydney is also getting a little bit of a cataract in a couple of her eyes, in both of her eyes. And when she looks up sun, she goes sunblind, and so we have to account for that, because then she'll get lost. She can't find us, she can't see us, and she can't hear us. And so we have to be pay a little extra attention. We walk real slow on her walks in the morning. Let her take her time. It's the greatest gift you can give to an elderly dog is just to not press them. Let them be themselves, and to walk at their own pace, and do what they'd like to do.
Cool. Our neighbor's got a new black lab puppy.
I saw that.
If you all want to sign up for our email newsletter, you get a picture of the Labradors every week in the newsletter. And this week's is Blaze the puppy, the black lab puppy.
Now, does Blaze actually have a white patch somewhere?
Yeah, he does actually. He has a little white blaze on his chest, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because when you haven't been around puppies for a couple of years, and then you're like, wow, can they bite? But he's been going on some woods walks with us, so that's great. He has Charlie. We figured Charlie Pup would play with her, but it's not quite at the play. The puppy wants to play, and the older dogs are still putting the puppy in his place. But we did. Blaze did go swimming the other day. We were at one of the ponds with him, and my two were in the water, and he wanted to be with them, and so he went right out into the water about 5 feet out and swam back in. So that was nice.
Okay.
If you want your dogs to swim, they're going to have to come to it themselves. Do not force them into the water. Okay? So that's all I'll say about that.
If you have a lab, it's probably not a problem.
We, one of the family of labs, Buck is his name, in our extended circle of Labradors, will not go in the water.
Really?
Yeah. And that is not, maybe 20% of labs won't go in the water. But actually, a lot of people on YouTube will comment like, "Oh, your dogs are in the water. My lab won't go in." So there you go.
Our friend at Little Black Dog is having a birthday today.
Happy birthday, sir.
Yes, sir. He helps us out with computer chores around here and equipment. And he helped me with a hard drive decision I had a few months ago, and suggested that I was complaining that the SSD, the solid state drives, were too expensive.
Right.
And I didn't want to get one. And he said, well, they make a hybrid drive, and it's part solid state, it's part regular hard drive, and it kind of switches back and forth and moves information. It's supposed to be faster. I got one. It worked great for 1 year, and then it crapped out. So it just, that's the way it works with these things. And, of course, it's well out of warranty. And so I just installed a new 1 terabyte solid-state drive, and I am thrilled. It
Wow.
flies. You can't believe how much it improves your life.
Wow, there you go. That's a solution to everything then, just a solid-state drive.
They really haven't updated the guts of a computer in a very long time. I mean, to make them really that much faster. Mm-hmm. If you have a fairly modern, the last 3-4 years, but this drive is just phenomenal.
Cool. Maybe that could be our next Amazon purchase after everyone uses our Amazon shopping link, which is in the show notes of the show. If you're listening to this on your smartphone, you should be able to tap on the Garden Fork Radio icon as this episode is playing, and it'll change from the icon to the show notes, and there are clickable links in there.
Right.
And we will link to the Root Simple article about paper wasps and the roast corn episode as well, stuff like that.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Well, I bet people have pretty much gotten to where they're going to go.
They have. Actually, my friend Tim in Philadelphia was asking about and talking about podcasts, and he said he likes to listen to podcasts that are about a half an hour because that's his commute. So I was like, all right, we got to keep them under 30 minutes then.
When I download, and we were talking podcast earlier, and I download a bunch of them every morning, and I download them in one big tranche. Then I'll rack and stack them by what looks interesting, and a bunch of them fall to the bottom. And I've noticed that the longer ones fall to the bottom more readily. And I'll intersperse a long one, then have a very short one, long one, short one, long one, medium. But the ones that are an hour or more, I almost never listen to anymore. It's the 15, 20, and 30-minute ones that I hear most often.
All right, so we'll stay at 30 here, though.
Okay.
So thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And it's always cool to hear from people. It's radio@gardenfork.tv. All right, so make it a great day.
Okay. Talk to you later, my friend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Garden Fork's theme music is licensed from uniquetracks.com.